You must marry Dorian. Forced by Grandpa to marry me, a man 5 years older. The arrogant young heiress planned to pretend to agree, just to fool Grandpa for now. But just as she was about to enter the wedding chamber, Grandpa pulled me into the study for a talk. Don't try that married but sleeping separately trick with me, living separate lives after marriage, each doing your own thing. Serafina froze. How does Grandpa know what I'm thinking? Is he a mind reader? As long as you have a child, I won't interfere with anything else. Grandpa, are you treating me like some woman who's only good for having babies? Or do you want to be the kind of woman who, after having the baby, goes wherever she wants, whenever she wants? Or would you rather go to the company 9 to 5, working like a corporate slave for over 10 hours a day? Pick one. Whichever you choose, you're having a baby, no matter what. Even if you go to work, you still have to have a baby. Fine, I'll have the baby. Doesn't Grandpa want to babysit? I'll have 8 or 10 of them. Let's see that old man work himself to death. Serafina stormed back to her room, and the moment she pushed the door open, she saw me. Serafina never expected to see a sight like this. The moment she opened the door, she froze on the spot. What do I do? I saw her just standing frozen in the doorway. She didn't say anything, so I just went to blow dry my hair. Serafina finally stepped inside. Only then did she realize the room had completely changed. No need to guess, it had to be Jasper. That man never learns to keep things simple, even at his age. Why isn't this man nervous at all? Aren't men supposed to be nervous their first time? Or maybe this isn't his first time. Such a double standard. Why should I be the innocent one while he isn't? I'm getting the worst end of this deal. Once I finished blow-drying my hair, I saw Serafina sitting on the sofa, not showering, not saying a word. Aren't you going to shower? Serafina looked at me, puffing with anger. What, do you think I'm dirty? I paused for a moment, not understanding why she'd suddenly gotten upset. I didn't mean that, Serafina huffed. I looked at her, thought for a moment, and said, let's talk. Serafina stared at me blankly, her body tensing up completely. Talk about what? Talk about when you want to go to bed. Should we go to bed now? Serafina couldn't think straight at all. She could only stare at me, red-faced and dazed, as if she'd been utterly bewitched. Weren't we just going to sleep? Then why are you kissing me? The next morning, Serafina was still fast asleep, but out of pure instinct she had curled up into my arms. The unfamiliar warmth made her pause, and opening her eyes she met my cold, distant gaze. What are you doing? She flushed with embarrassment, instinctively about to apologize, but the words caught in her throat. Why should I be the one apologizing? I'm the proud heiress of the Rosemount family. When have I ever apologized to anyone? Dorian is my husband. Whatever I do to him is perfectly justified. With that thought, Serafina pressed her body right up against mine, burying herself deeper into my arms. Judging by how she looked, I could guess what she meant. I spoke right away. Wait until tonight. Serafina's face turned red, and she let go of me, then got out of bed and headed to the bathroom. I let out a breath and relaxed, picking up my phone and opening an app to check her ovulation cycle. It all started when Alistair came to me himself to negotiate a deal, asking me to marry Serafina. The terms he offered were impossible to refuse: shares, assets, all kinds of gifts, in exchange for just 2 things. First, help guide and support Serafina after the marriage so she could grow into her role and one day take on the responsibility of Rosemount Holdings. Second, produce an heir for the family as soon as possible. I had to get her pregnant, and quickly. Serafina came out of the bathroom after her shower and saw that I was already washed up and dressed. The 2 of us went downstairs together. Alistair was having breakfast in the dining room, with Jasper attending nearby. The moment they saw Serafina and me appear, they both paused. Alistair and Jasper exchanged a glance. Surely nothing happened between them, right? Serafina hadn't noticed at all the look the 2 old men exchanged. She simply sat down and had the servant bring her breakfast. I gave Alistair a light smile and a greeting and found a seat as well. Dorian, did you sleep well last night? Quite well. Serafina's face reddened for no clear reason. Seeing how well I looked, Alistair knew I wasn't lying. Alistair shot Serafina a glare. She was baffled by the glare. Why are you glaring at me this early? You're married now. The wedding night is done, so what's there left to complain about? Grandpa, the older you get, the harder you are to please. You have such a beautiful, obedient granddaughter, and still you're never satisfied. After breakfast I headed off to work. Serafina wanted to go back to her room for a nap. After being kept up half the night, she hadn't really slept well either. But Alistair stopped her. Stop right there. Where do you think you're going? Back to bed. Sleep? Not a chance. Get yourself to the company and go to work. What? Grandpa, you want me to go work at the company? Didn't you say before that as long as I focused on having a baby at home, I wouldn't have to work? And have you been focusing on having a baby? Of course I have. Whether you have or haven't, it's always your word, isn't it? How would I know? Would I really lie to you? You've lied to me plenty of times before. Jasper, fetch the knife. Grandpa, what do you need a knife for? Obviously, I'm done living. What else would I do with it? Grandpa, have you never heard the story of the boy who cried wolf? I used to worry that if something happened to me, you'd be left alone in this world living a hard life. But now, I don't worry anymore. Dorian is a capable, loyal, and honorable man. If I really were gone, he'd take good care of you, and he'd run Rosemount Holdings well too. So now I can go with a clear conscience. Jasper, hurry up and bring it. The sharpest one. I'll go. Working like a slave, fine, I'll do it. I really am getting the short end of this deal. Working all day, and having to work overtime at night. Sooner or later this will kill me. So Serafina resigned herself to following Alistair to the company. You're starting from the bottom. Plan on 2 or 3 years. A few months in every department. A manager who doesn't understand how things work on the ground is easy prey for the people below her to fool. When Alistair and Serafina got home right after work, they saw the housekeeper rushing out to meet them. Sir, miss, you're finally back. It's about the young master. What happened to him? The young master has gone on a business trip. He asked me to let you know. You scared me half to death. Alistair frowned and glared at Serafina. She was baffled by the glare. Grandpa, why are you glaring at me like that? Why am I glaring at you? Don't you know exactly why? If I knew, I wouldn't be asking you. Tell me honestly, did you not perform well last night? What? I didn't perform well? What else could it be? Obviously, who told you that? Who needs to tell me? Isn't it obvious? If you'd really performed well, would Dorian have gone on a business trip? He went on the trip because he's busy with work. What does that have to do with how I performed? Why didn't Dorian go on a trip earlier, or later, but right after your wedding night? It's obvious you didn't perform well, and he's avoiding you. If you'd truly satisfied him, would Dorian bear to leave his new bride behind for a business trip? When it comes to matters between men and women, you've had a taste of it now. Ask yourself honestly, could you bear to leave Dorian behind for a business trip right now? Serafina was caught off guard by the question. I really couldn't bear it. I had no feelings for that man. But I had to admit, last night, I'd been incredibly happy. And Dorian going on a trip, was he running away from doing that with me again? Seeing Serafina utterly consumed by doubt, Alistair felt thoroughly satisfied she just needed to be taken down a peg, or she'd really start thinking she was irresistible. I didn't return from my trip until 7 days later. Seeing me suddenly walk back in, Serafina froze for a moment. Alistair was glad to see me back, and eagerly asked about the trip. Did the trip go smoothly? Yes, everything went well. I answered between bites. Serafina just kept her head down and ate, and just as Alistair and I were deep in conversation, she finished her meal, set down her chopsticks, and got up and left without a word. You were gone a whole week, and Serafina hasn't been quite herself. Make sure you comfort her a bit. Why would my trip upset her? Shouldn't she be happy about it? Understood. Grandpa wants me to comfort her, so I suppose I'll comfort her. After finishing my meal, I went back to the room. Serafina was sitting on the sofa, scrolling on her phone. I said nothing, and went to take a shower. Serafina had assumed I'd talked to her, but I hadn't said a word. 7 days on a business trip and not a single word for me? Sure, this was a loveless marriage of convenience, but this felt almost too cold, even for that. It was genuinely disheartening. I finished my shower, threw on a pair of sleep pants, and walked back out. Serafina heard the noise, looked up, and saw the sight before her. Ready for bed? What did that mean? Sleep, as in, just plain sleeping, or sleeping the way they had on their wedding night? Her face flushed, not sure how to answer for a moment. Not going to sleep? Sleeping with your own husband, why should I be embarrassed? Why wouldn't I want to sleep? I'm sleeping. Of course I'm sleeping. Don't get the wrong idea. Me sleeping with you isn't because I like you, or because I want to. It's just that Grandpa wants a great-grandchild. What on earth was he saying? When did I ever treat you as some baby-making tool? Right. I know today happens to be your fertile window. He even kept track of that. Being treated like a baby-making tool and you're not even mad? You really do have a saint's patience. Seeing her expression shift back and forth, I asked, what's wrong? Serafina seemed to snap out of it and shook her head. Nothing. Let's just go to sleep. Once she lay down on the bed, Serafina felt a bit nervous. On their wedding night, Dorian had taken the lead. But now, was she supposed to take initiative? Taking initiative wasn't impossible for her, but she was embarrassed. And how exactly was she supposed to start? Should she hug him first, or kiss him first? I lay in bed and waited a while. Is she shy right now? I'm a little shy too, honestly. But for the sake of the goal, it looked like I'd have to make the first move tonight. I'd meant to say something, but we barely knew each other, and I had no idea what to say, so I said nothing at all, and simply leaned in and kissed her. After a few days on the job, Serafina had developed a fairly regular body clock. One day, the moment I woke up, she woke up too. The two of them glanced at each other, then each got up and went to wash up. After freshening up, they went downstairs for breakfast. Alistair looked her over, bright-eyed and refreshed, a look of pure satisfaction on Serafina's face, and he cracked a faint smirk. Just a few days ago, this girl was sulking non-stop. But the moment her husband got back last night, that look of smug contentment on her face now is impossible to hide. And to think someone was so against this marriage, that turned around fast. If it weren't for keeping up appearances in front of her husband, I'd be teasing her mercilessly right now. After breakfast, the three of them headed off to work. Serafina and Alistair went to the company together. In the car, Alistair asked Serafina, "Did Dorian comfort you last night?" Serafina's face turned red instantly. She glanced at Alistair. "Why would he need to comfort me? I'm not a child." Alistair looked slightly surprised. "He didn't comfort you?" "Dorian, he promised me he would." "You told him to comfort me?" "Yes." "And Grandpa, what exactly did you tell him?" "What do you mean, what did I tell him? I just told him straight, that since he'd been gone a whole week, you missed him, and you'd been out of sorts, so he should comfort you a bit. In that moment, the pampered, doted-on heiress felt her whole world collapse. Grandpa, how could you say such nonsense? When did I ever miss him? I've never been so humiliated. Grandpa, you're absolutely infuriating. You didn't miss him? Then why this whole past week have you been pouting every single day, like someone owed you a fortune and never paid it back? So what was that about then? Serafina, red-faced, gritted her teeth and refused to admit it. So what, you're mad now, shutting yourself off? Serafina turned to stare out the window. Absolutely, refusing to say another word. At noon, I had lunch scheduled with Vesper, the company's top-tier star, to discuss a live-stream shopping deal. She'd shot to fame 3 years ago with a hit school drama, and had earned the company a great deal over the years. I understood well that given her standing, long-term product endorsements would cheapen her brand. I only planned to have her appear occasionally, to draw attention to the company's other talents, and give Meridian Group some promotion along the way. This was the first time I'd met her in person. Her long white hair was strikingly bold, the kind of look that screamed, hard to deal with. After brief pleasantries, I explained my purpose over the meal. Work out the details with my manager. I paused for a moment. Rumor had it that Vesper had a fierce temper, hard to deal with. Though she'd never crossed any real lines, she was proud, quick to turn cold in an instant. The company often had to clean up after her, and more than a few deals had fallen apart because of her temper. I'd expected to have to work hard to persuade her today, but she'd agreed without any fuss. Maybe she wasn't as difficult as the rumors claimed after all. Good, this is the signature dish here. Try it. I looked at Vesper thinking, she seemed a bit odd. Was she trying to butter me up? But she didn't seem like the type. Vesper said nothing, eyes lowered as she ate, her cheeks faintly flushed. But I hadn't noticed. The two of them finished the meal and stepped out of the private room. Dorian, you're here too, having a meal? I glanced at Serafina, who was watching us with a cold stare. Vesper noticed my gaze, shot me a pouty look, let out a huff, and turned away. No idea what I'd done to upset her this time. Truly, a young woman's mood can flip in an instant. After a few brief words, we went our separate ways. As we were leaving, Vesper asked me, "You know Alistair pretty well?" I nodded, smiling. "Yes, I'm married to Serafina." Vesper froze for a moment, staring at me in stunned disbelief. "What? Does that surprise you?" Vesper finally snapped out of it and looked at me, her expression growing more distant. "Is Meridian Group in some kind of trouble? Otherwise, why would you marry someone with such a scandal-ridden reputation as a spoiled heiress?" "Not at all. Don't worry. Meridian Group is doing fine. Perfectly stable. Then why marry her?" I'd assumed Vesper was worried about Meridian's finances, but that didn't seem to be the case. "Because I like her, obviously. A husband liking his wife is only natural." That answer left no room for anyone to object. Vesper's expression turned cold, and she said no more. For the rest of the day, she never spoke another word. After work, Callum and the others invited Serafina out. She arrived at the venue and found a seat, which happened to be right next to Marlo. Marlo tilted her head and whispered in her ear, "Why are you here? Isn't Dorian back from his trip?" Serafina shot Marlo a cold look, let out a huff, and said, "He might as well not have come back. The moment he got back, he was already off with some other shady woman. Just seeing it makes my blood boil. He might as well have stayed on his trip forever. At least then, I wouldn't have to see it." Puzzled by her reaction, Marlo asked, "Why are you being so snippy? Mind your own business, that's overstepping, don't you think? Are you kidding me right now? And back in school, didn't your teachers ever teach you to respect your elders? Is this really how you talk to someone older than you?" Marlo paused for a moment. "Older than me? Sure, I'm your sister-in-law. Doesn't that make me your elder?" Marlo was momentarily stumped, just about to argue back, when Dahlia spoke up. "What are you two whispering about over there?" The others eyed them with suspicion too, scrutinizing the pair. Something had felt off about those two lately. Whenever they crossed paths, they'd huddle together and whisper, like they were hiding something. Marlo was about to speak, but Serafina straightened up and said, "I was teaching her a lesson." The friends found that hilarious, and laughingly asked, "Teaching her what exactly?" "Teaching her to respect her elders. Whose elder are you talking about exactly? Is there anyone here older than her?" Me, obviously. I'm her elder." "What kind of elder are you supposed to be? You'd have the nerve to take advantage of Marlo?" "Ha ha ha, I'm her sister-in-law. She's clearly taking advantage of you like this, and you're not even going to hit her back? Everyone knows Marlo's completely obsessed with her brother, always going on about how amazing her brother is. If Serafina dares take advantage of her precious brother, she's finished." They waited for Marlo to blow up, but instead she just sat there, unmoving, her expression sour but nothing more. Dahlia and the others' smiles gradually froze. Serafina lifted her chin slightly, looking at them with smug satisfaction. "If Marlo dares hit me, I'll go tell Dorian, a younger relative. Striking an elder? Outrageous. No way, this can't be real." Dahlia stared at Marlo in disbelief, then at Serafina. Marlo had never been the type to bite her tongue. Her staying quiet now could only mean one thing. Serafina was telling the truth. She really was Marlo's sister-in-law. How could you possibly end up with Dorian? One's an ambitious, driven man, and the other is a do-nothing rich kid. How would they even end up together? "Let me correct you, we're not just together. We're already married." Everyone froze, staring at Serafina in complete shock, taking a good while to snap out of it. What on earth is going on? Dorian just got married? Just like that? If Serafina can pull this off, why can't we? We could too. It's not like that. It's just a business alliance arranged by our families. Dahlia protested, unusually formal in her anger. If Serafina could have this, why can't I? Same here, I could too. The girls all saw Dorian through rose-tinted glasses, like some perfect prince. None of them had ever considered being with him in any romantic way before. But now, thinking it over carefully, they'd all end up in an arranged marriage eventually anyway. Dorian is mature, generous, and a real gentleman, capable in every way. And we've known him since we were kids, rather than marrying some stranger later. Some rich kid we don't even know. Wouldn't it be so much better to marry Dorian? He's looked out for us since we were little. He's always been so good to us. If we really got married, Dorian would surely take care of us, just like he did when we were kids, and treat us well. I really couldn't help it either. I had no idea about any of this beforehand. If I'd known sooner, do you think they'd have had a chance? If I'd known, I'd have found some way to sabotage it. I never would have let this girl get her claws into my brother. Dahlia and the others nodded furiously. Serafina really doesn't deserve someone like Dorian. Serafina looked at them all, feeling both smug and a bit wronged. I'd married the very man they'd all wanted for themselves, but was I really as unworthy as they claimed? Marlo thinking I didn't deserve her brother. Fine, she was always obsessed with him anyway, convinced he was the finest man on earth. But Dahlia, why did the rest of them think I wasn't good enough either? Dorian, I am Serafina, heiress of a prominent family. I have character and looks, I have ability and looks, I have pedigree and looks. Countless heirs of great families have chased after me. Am I really that unworthy? The way they went on almost made her lose her confidence. What are you so smug about? It's just a loveless marriage. I'd take a loveless marriage like that too. I never used to think about marrying someone older than me, but if that person were Dorian, I could do it. I really could. What do you all even understand? Do you really think this is just a loveless business marriage? If it were truly just about business, a marriage of pure interest, why wouldn't he marry some other heiress? Are there no families in our circle wealthier than mine, with women his own age and just as capable? A man like Dorian could find whatever kind of match he wanted, and yet he couldn't find anyone? Why? Why did he choose me of all people? Isn't it obvious? He likes me. Serafina lifted her chin, brimming with pride. As far as she was concerned, he was clearly drawn to her youth and beauty. The whole group felt their world collapse. In their minds, Dorian was the most flawless man imaginable, and yet he'd fallen for a brat like Serafina? Marlo kept her expression cold and said nothing. What Serafina said actually made sense. If my brother genuinely wanted a marriage alliance, he could pick from any heiress in City C. I'm not exaggerating. My brother is highly capable, mature and steady, and ever since we were kids, he's been the golden child every parent held up as an example. And these past years, he's mostly been abroad, rarely coming back home. Otherwise, our doorstep would have been worn out with suitors. With so many suitable candidates, he chose none of them, and picked Serafina instead. He and she are nothing alike. If that isn't love, what is it? But when exactly did my brother fall for Serafina? These past years, he's basically been abroad, rarely coming home. And even when he did, it was always brief. Could it be that he ran into Serafina by chance one time, and fell for her at first sight? Marlo glanced at Serafina. In front of her brother, the only thing Serafina really had going for her was her face after that. The other three friends channeled their heartbreak into their drinking, pouring drink after drink into Serafina. Callum tried to stop them but couldn't, while Marlo just watched coldly from the side, not joining in, but not stopping them either. If it weren't for my position, I'd have started pouring drinks into you myself. By 10 o'clock, Serafina was finally thoroughly drunk. Dahlia said to Marlo, "Have Dorian come pick her up. He doesn't like it when we drink, let alone getting completely wasted like this. Let him see what Serafina looks like right now, slumped on the couch like a puddle of mush. Where's that regal heiress poised now?" With that, Marlo actually called me, asking me to come pick up Serafina. I found the private room, and pushing the door open, saw Serafina collapsed on the couch. Everyone else was just doing their own thing, completely ignoring her. Some good friends they were. The others saw me arrive and froze for a moment. Dahlia and the others hadn't seen me in a long while. They found themselves thinking I somehow seemed even more attractive than before. It really isn't fair that a brat like Serafina gets him. This was Callum's first time seeing me in person. He'd only ever heard about me through Marlo before, and never expected me to actually be this compelling. Callum's heart raced a little faster. I just stood quietly in the doorway, letting my gaze sweep over them. Marlo greeted me. "Dorian." I walked over to Serafina's side, looked at Marlo and asked, "Did you all pour drinks into her?" No way. Serafina had drunk herself into this state all alone. The others were all perfectly fine, though guilt flickered across their faces. No, we didn't. Marlo hadn't personally poured any drinks into Serafina. She'd just done nothing to stop the others from doing it. The others said nothing, especially Dahlia and Vesper, their eyes darting around, expressions awkward, looking anywhere but at me, at the sky, the floor, the empty air, anywhere but at me. I understood everything in an instant, and didn't press further. I sat down beside Serafina. Serafina, I'm here to take you home. She didn't move, didn't say a word, completely passed out from the drink. Let's go home. I lifted her up in my arms without a word, said goodbye to Marlo, Dahlia and the others, and left. Dahlia frowned. Dorian really does like Serafina. Even with her this drunk. He wasn't even angry. He came to pick her up himself. If that's not love, what is it? Marlo said nothing. Was it really love? But the way her brother had acted didn't feel like love somehow. He'd come to pick Serafina up himself, yes, and his tone had been gentle enough. But in his eyes, there had been no trace of real concern. If he truly loved Serafina, seeing her in this state would surely have worried him deeply. But he hadn't shown any of that. Years ago, she'd seen what it looked like when her brother truly loved someone, so she could easily tell the difference. His marriage had to have some other reason behind it. Was our family's business really in some kind of trouble? Had he married for Rosemount's support, sacrificing his own happiness in the process? I can't just keep drifting along like this anymore. I brought Serafina home, had the maid help her back to her room, and told the staff to prepare hangover remedy. Alistair saw the state she was in, and grew furious. She really is a hopeless case. I found her a husband this handsome and devoted, and she doesn't even appreciate it. Instead of staying home with her husband, she goes out gallivanting with a bunch of women, and drinks herself into this pitiful state. I've been sharp my whole life, right up to old age. How did I end up with such a disappointing granddaughter? Why did you even go pick her up? You should have just let her drink herself silly out there. Grandpa? Serafina was just out with friends. She's newly married, and it's only natural her friends would have her drink a bit more than usual. Alistair's brow furrowed slightly. I know you're worried about her health, Grandpa. Don't worry. Once she wakes up tomorrow, I'll talk to her about drinking less in the future, so the family doesn't have to worry. Alistair looked at me. This husband I chose for Serafina really is a good one. Mature, gentle, attentive, and caring. He hoped Serafina would learn to appreciate him, and not act recklessly or waste all the effort he'd put into this. Alistair left. I had the household maid help Serafina to the bathroom for a bath. The maid finished bathing her and brought her to bed. Looking at Serafina, still unconscious, I didn't insist on making her drink the hangover remedy after all. Fortunately, she was too drunk tonight, otherwise we'd be in for another intense night. At least I'll actually get a good night's sleep tonight. In the morning, Serafina woke up with a splitting headache. She held her head and took in her surroundings. I've been brought home. How did I even get back? Did Marlo, Dahlia, and the others bring me back? No way, they wouldn't have been that kind. Last night they were practically trying to drink me to death. Marlo had just watched coldly from the side, and not stopping it was as good as encouraging it, so it definitely wasn't them who brought me back. Then who was it? It's not like I walked myself home. She reached her hand toward the nightstand. I drank so much last night, yet there's no smell of alcohol on me at all. Someone must have given me a bath. Serafina turned her head to look beside her. The moment she turned, morning. Serafina realized he was probably the one who'd bathed her last night. Her cheeks flushed instantly. Morning, I asked her with concern. Is there anything hurting or feeling off? Serafina bit her lip gently, saying nothing. I asked again, headache? This time she nodded. There's hangover remedy in the kitchen. I'll have it brought up. The night before, I'd guessed she'd wake up with a headache this morning, so I'd had the kitchen prepare the remedy in advance. That way she could drink it the moment she woke up. The remedy wasn't what mattered right now. What mattered was, who exactly had bathed her last night? Should I just ask directly? Was it you who bathed me last night, Dorian? Wouldn't that sound a little too suggestive? How did I even get home last night? Marlo called me and said you'd had too much to drink, so I went to pick you up. Oh no, I didn't make a scene last night, did I? I'd never drunk that much before. I just blacked out completely. I had no idea what kind of drunk I even was. But what if Dorian told her she'd made a scene last night? How would she even face him after that? Serafina decided it was best to say nothing at all. After finishing the hangover remedy, Serafina came downstairs with me for breakfast. After breakfast, I went back to the room to change for work. Serafina pulled Jasper aside for a quiet word. Jasper, I didn't make a scene last night, did I? Not at all, miss. You were very well behaved last night. Well behaved? No one had described her that way since she was 5 or 6 years old. Jasper nodded with a smile. The young master brought you home himself. You were cradled in his arms the whole way. So calm and sweet. It was honestly quite endearing. Stop, Jasper, you. Don't say another word. Endearing. You're using that word to describe me? Jasper privately grumbled to himself. When she's happy, it's fine for him to say things straight, but the moment she's not, suddenly it's Jasper this and Jasper that. Miss really does change her mood fast. Serafina glared at Jasper, unimpressed. Jasper, can't you just stick to the facts when you talk? Endearing, honestly, what an exaggeration. Jasper replied with a smile. What's wrong with that? You're the young master's wife. Isn't it perfectly natural for him to find you endearing? Serafina's cheeks flushed as she glared at him. Jasper, you've gotten really cheesy with your words lately. How can you even say something like that out loud? Enough with the nonsense. Jasper quickly protested. How is any of this nonsense? Miss, you have no idea how anxious the young master was last night when he heard you'd gotten drunk. He rushed straight out the door to bring you home, and then he immediately had the kitchen start on your hangover remedy. Wait a moment. So who bathed me last night then? Of course it was the young, to be honest, I mean it really was the young master. Serafina's cheeks flushed bright red instantly. It really was him. Then, hadn't he seen every inch of her? Touched every inch too? She was about to say something when she heard Jasper continue. He had one of the household maids bathe you. Could this man not just finish a sentence in one go? Who taught him to pause like that mid-thought? It nearly gave her a heart attack. Drink less from now on, it's not good for you. Do you know why I drank so much last night? It's because Dahlia and Vesper kept pouring drinks into me, and Marlowe just stood there, not helping me at all. I asked her with a smile. Why would they do that to you? Serafina looked at me, wondering if he genuinely didn't know or was just pretending. He didn't say anything. Seeing the look on her face, I smiled slightly. It's fine. They won't be bothering you like that again. Serafina looked utterly confused, but I didn't bother explaining. Come on, it's time for work. Serafina's face fell. I must have done something terrible in a past life to deserve waking up early for work in this one, working myself to the bone. I arrived at the office, mulling over what Serafina had said earlier. Why would Dahlia and the others have pushed drinks on Serafina like that? I had a pretty good idea. That line about Marlowe standing by without helping her was enough to confirm Marlowe was behind it all. I called and asked Marlowe to come by the office. Dorian, what did you need me for? You don't like Serafina being your sister-in-law? Should I get you a different one then? Marlowe asked. You can actually do that? I looked at her with a faint smile, one that never quite reached my eyes. What do you think? A chill ran through Marlowe. No need at all. Serafina's perfectly fine. I kept my smile steady and went on. Since you think she's fine, then learn from her example. Learn what exactly? I let out a cold chuckle. Learn what? How she just eats, drinks, and plays around. Spoiled and unreasonable? You've had long enough to enjoy yourself since graduation. Starting tomorrow, you'll be coming to work at the company. Marlowe stared at me, panic written all over her face, feeling like her whole world had just collapsed. Sooner or later, you'll need to learn how to run this company. But Dorian, I think the company's doing great in your hands. I don't have any grand ambitions. I just want to spend my whole life as a carefree heiress. I've never once thought I had to inherit the family company. It's fine giving all the assets in the company to you, as long as you give me a bit of an allowance each month. That's more than enough for me. That's what you think. Well, would you rather learn from Serafina instead? No thank you. I smiled at Marlowe, genuinely pleased. Good girl. Dorian, why would you say that? I'm not a little kid anymore. Still, being praised by her brother made her genuinely happy. Marlowe left the office in high spirits. After seeing Marlowe off, I sent a message to Dahlia and Vesper's parents to catch up. I asked after the family elders with warm concern, mentioned nothing was wrong, and then casually brought up how Marlowe would be starting work at the company. Both families remarked how Marlowe had finally matured. Dahlia and Vesper had grown up with her since childhood, so of course they should all start working together. My reasoning was simple. Once all three of them had jobs, they wouldn't have the time or energy left to keep scheming against Serafina. Both families immediately informed Dahlia and Vesper. The two of them tried to resist, but their parents shut them down without mercy. Your good friends Serafina and Marlowe are both starting work. Aren't you all supposed to be close friends? Share the good times together, and share the hardships too. Well, Serafina's a different case. She's the sole heir to the Rosemount family. She was always going to work eventually. But Marlowe, that pampered heiress, was living her best life. Neither of them could understand why she'd suddenly agree to work too. The two of them asked in the group chat, Marlowe, why on earth would you suddenly agree to go work? Vesper, why are you asking? You're not planning to fight Dorian for the family fortune, are you? What? You'd actually have such a rebellious, self-destructive idea? With that thick head of yours, you think you could beat Dorian? If you ever actually fight Dorian for the fortune, the two of us won't be on your side. Oh, and one more thing, we'll be backing Dorian. The two of them went on, talking over each other, bouncing lines back and forth. Marlowe heard her phone buzz, and seeing the messages, her vision nearly went dark. What kind of fair-weather friends were these? She hadn't said a single word about any of this, and they'd already spun up an entire drama in their heads. When did I ever say I wanted to fight my brother for the fortune? I'd actually like to live a few more years, thank you. Another message from Vesper came through. Don't worry, Marlowe, if Dorian ever does you in, we'll be the ones to collect your body. That's what all these years of friendship are for. It's the least we can do for you. Wow, thanks so much for that. Serafina finally chimed into the chat. The way you two talk, Dorian, sounds absolutely terrifying. Dahlia jumped to defend him. How could you say that? Dorian is the gentlest, most handsome man in the world. Serafina, you really need to protect yourself. Serafina was confused. Should I be afraid of him? It's not like he's going to eat me alive. The rest of the group sent a long string of ellipses. Serafina grew even more puzzled. What are you all doing? Why is everyone sending these dots? The chat fell silent for a moment. Finally, Dahlia couldn't hold back and spoke up first. So, Serafina, have you eaten yet? Serafina looked at the message. Eaten what? Breakfast, yes. Lunch, not yet. What, are you trying to invite me to lunch? Well, let me just tell you all, I'm a working woman now. Swamped with important business, extremely busy. If you want to book lunch with me, you'd better schedule it in advance. The others sent another string of ellipses. Serafina looked utterly baffled. What is going on with all of you? Dahlia, spit it out. Dahlia looked completely exasperated. What I meant was, has Dorian had you yet? Now it was Seraphina's turn to send ellipses into the chat. After sending them, she went completely silent, her face flushed a deep, thorough red. These people had absolutely no sense of boundaries. Was there nothing they wouldn't just come out and ask? Whatever went on between her and her husband was hardly any of their business. Someone pressed further. What do you mean by that? Has he or hasn't he? Seraphina, thoroughly flustered, snapped, none of your business. Are you serious right now? Way too invested in this. I was just asking casually, why are you getting so worked up? Sounds like the answer's a no then. And how do you even know I've got a place by the ocean? Someone couldn't stop thinking about the man from last night. A first-class heartthrob like Dorian, I'd nearly drooled just looking at him last night. If Seraphina hadn't beaten me to it, I'd have gone up to him myself, gotten his number one way or another, and maybe tried a little seduction along the way. Knowing Seraphina's personality, if things had actually happened, there's no way she'd be reacting like this. Nothing had probably happened between them yet. Not that it was unusual, though. Arranged marriages didn't come with the luxury of time to build feelings. Plenty of couples took time getting familiar before anything happened between them. Dorian and Seraphina were just another example of that. In this world of high society, plenty of couples married purely for the sake of family interests, playing the loving couple in public, while never even sharing a single kiss behind closed doors. Seraphina didn't argue back. Marlowe frowned. They were already married, yet still hadn't slept together. There was no way the problem was on Dorian's end. It had to be Seraphina's fault. Seraphina was unhappy about it, but under Alistair's iron-fisted pressure, she still refused to sleep with Dorian. It was an outrageous insult. Seraphina, that shameless woman, how dare she insult Dorian like this? Marlowe wanted to stand up for Dorian, but she couldn't exactly force Seraphina into doing that with her own brother, could she? That would be humiliating. Marlowe thought it over for a long while, and came up with a plan. She texted me asking me to dinner that night, and I agreed. After work that evening, I headed straight to the restaurant Marlowe had booked. I assumed it would just be the two of us, but there was someone else waiting there, Imogen, eldest daughter of the Lee family. She was an old classmate of mine, from elementary school all the way through high school, and we'd always gotten along well. I walked over and sat down. Imogen greeted me with a smile. Dorian, long time no see. I smiled back. Yeah, long time no see. How have you been? The food arrived and we ate and talked. Imogen and I had both entered the working world by now. Whether it was stories from our school days or talk of business, we always found plenty to talk about, and the mood was pleasant. Watching Imogen and me chat happily, Marlowe picked up her phone and started taking photos. Hearing the shutter sound, I glanced at her. I'm just taking a selfie. I didn't think much of it, and kept talking with Imogen. Marlowe sifted through the photos in her album, picked out two, and posted them online, with the caption, Dinner with my brother, along with a cheerful emoji. Although the caption said, Dinner with my brother, the photos themselves showed Imogen and me deep in conversation. In the photo, I gazed at the gentle, radiant Imogen, a faint smile on my face, while Imogen looked back at me, eyes full of warmth. Anyone who didn't know the full story might have mistaken us for a couple. Marlowe posted it, visible only to Seraphina. There, that would even the score for Dorian. She wanted Seraphina to know that Dorian had no shortage of admirers, and that Seraphina was nobody special. Time to make Seraphina feel a little threatened. Seraphina came home after work, only for Jasper to tell her that I had a work dinner that night, and wouldn't be home for dinner. Seraphina sighed, a little exasperated. Was he really that busy? They'd only been married a few days, and between the business trips and the evening dinners he skipped coming home for, even her grandfather, the CEO of an entire conglomerate, wasn't this busy. Her grandfather had a dinner engagement of his own that night too, so she was home alone tonight. Seraphina sat on the sofa, scrolling her phone while waiting for dinner, idly browsing her social feed, when she came across Marlowe's post. She'd been slouched, lazily on the sofa, but she instantly sat bolt upright. She knew Imogen, though they weren't close, they rarely crossed paths. After all, their families were in different industries, but since they both moved in high society circles, they'd run into each other privately before, exchanging polite nods from a distance. Looking at this photo, these two seemed awfully close. Having dinner with a young woman, was this what he meant by a work dinner? Seraphina's brow twitched, an inexplicable feeling of being cheated on washing over her. She sent Marlowe a message. Are you having dinner with your brother? Seeing Seraphina's message, Marlowe smirked with satisfaction. The fish had taken the bait. Marlowe replied, Yep. Seraphina asked again. And Imogen too? Marlowe replied with another yep. Staring at Marlowe's two curt yeps, Seraphina's expression darkened further. What was with all the yeps? Was that all she could say? Couldn't she elaborate a little? Seraphina had no choice but to keep asking. Your brother and Imogen know each other? Of course. My brother and Imogen were classmates from elementary school through high school. Seraphina frowned without realizing it. Running into an old classmate. My brother was really happy, but don't get the wrong idea. My brother and Imogen are just old classmates, though there were rumors about them back in school, but that's all in the past. Seraphina latched onto two words. Rumors. Marlowe replied quickly. Yeah, back then the whole school called them the golden couple, a match made in heaven, but that was all years ago. Seraphina's face darkened with displeasure, and she opened the photo again, staring at the two of them. So good-looking together, gazing right at each other, both smiling. The whole vibe of the photo just felt right. They really did look like a perfect match. Seeing Serafina go quiet, Marlo thought smugly, Serafina must be furious by now. Imogen and I had a great time catching up, and after dinner she invited more old classmates to join us. I'd gone abroad right after high school, and had spent all these years overseas, losing touch with most of my classmates back home, while she had stayed and built her life here, keeping up good relationships with everyone from back then. Once everyone arrived, and saw I was there too, they were delighted, and curious about what my life had looked like since graduation. They crowded around me, peppering me with questions about my career and love life, and I answered with a smile I was abroad for a while, handling our family's overseas business, but I'm back now, currently running our family's entertainment company, and, oh, I got married, we've already registered, and the wedding's still being planned. Everyone froze at that, staring at me in shock. You're married? I nodded with a smile. Yep. A subtle shift crossed their expressions. Dorian and Imogen had always been good-looking, came from good families, and did well in school. Back then, everyone had assumed the two of them would end up together. Hearing that I was married, Imogen stared at me in surprise, her grip on her cup tightening. Oh, so who did you marry? I said with a smile. My wife's name is Serafina. Serafina. That name sounds familiar, Imogen said, instantly placing who she was. Serafina, heiress of the Rosemount family. I explained with a smile, the heiress of Thousand Sails Hotel. They gasped in unison. Thousand Sails Hotel? That's a globally renowned 5-star hotel chain. Their business empire spans the entire globe, and here Dorian went and married Serafina of all people. Then again, though the Meridians couldn't quite match the Rosemounts, they weren't far behind either. It was a fitting match after all. My classmates all congratulated me, and I accepted graciously, inviting them to come to the wedding when the time came. The group didn't break up until 11 that night, and since I had work the next day, I was among the first to leave. Imogen walked me to the door, and since I'd been drinking, I couldn't drive myself, so I stood outside waiting for a designated driver. In the end, she couldn't help herself, and finally asked why I'd suddenly married Serafina, utterly baffled. I've been in City C this whole time, and the Rosemounts and the Meridians are both top-tier families in this circle. Their every move draws attention, yet I never heard the slightest whisper about an arranged marriage between the two families. It's just too sudden. I thought you didn't even have a girlfriend. I gave her the same tired, half-hearted excuse, because I liked her. Liked her, huh? Neither of us said anything more. The driver arrived soon after, and I said goodbye to her and left. I got home at midnight, walked into the bedroom, and found Serafina still sitting on the sofa scrolling her phone. I asked why she wasn't asleep yet. Serafina looked at me without saying a word, looking me up and down. My hair wasn't mussed, my clothes weren't wrinkled, and there wasn't a single suspicious mark on my neck. Waiting up for me? Serafina's face flushed instantly, and she snapped, flustered. Who's waiting for you? I'm just on my phone. I pressed on, smiling. On your phone while waiting for me? I told you I wasn't waiting for you. I'll try to come home earlier from now on so you don't have to stay up so late. Is this man deaf? I said I wasn't waiting, not waiting, not waiting. Can he please stop flattering himself, making it sound like I'm some bitter wife pining for her husband to come home? Serafina was about to say something, trying to salvage some dignity, but I'd already gone into the bathroom to wash up. Serafina was left speechless. Forget it. I'll set the record straight once he's out. I really was just on my phone. I came out of the bathroom and went straight to bed. I was exhausted, having worked all day, then forced myself to stay sharp through drinks with old classmates all evening, and now I was truly worn out. I just wanted to sleep. She'd been waiting for a chance to explain herself, but seeing my eyes already closed, she couldn't help feeling a flicker of irritation. He's just going to sleep? Doesn't he have anything to say to me? Sensing her little bout of sulking, I unconsciously curved my lips into a smile and reached out to pull her into my arms. Any trace of her irritation vanished instantly, leaving only a wave of bashful warmth. The night passed quietly, and by morning, Serafina's anger had mostly faded. The next day arrived, and Marlo, on her first day at work, came straight to my office, hoping to dig up some information. Looking at my somewhat haggard face, Marlo thought, did he not sleep well last night? Or did Serafina see my post and get into a fight with him? She asked, feigning concern. Dorian, you look exhausted. What happened? I said flatly, I didn't sleep well last night, didn't fall asleep until past 3 in the morning, and was up again by 7. It'd be a miracle if I felt rested. Marlo froze for a second. Was it because he and Serafina fought and he couldn't sleep, or because they were up doing something else? She scrutinized me carefully, but there wasn't a single suspicious mark on me anywhere. So nothing actually happened between them. How is Serafina so composed about this, not the least bit worried? It's not that she thought Serafina was such a great catch, it's just that Dorian was so wonderful, and here they were, married, with Serafina still refusing to let him touch her. He must be suffering inside. Serafina deserved to be strangled. The thought made Marlo snap instantly, and she stormed off in a rage. Marlo, what's wrong? She didn't answer me. In one breath, she drove straight from the parking lot to Rosemount Holdings headquarters. She reached the lobby but had no idea which floor Serafina's office was on, so she called her directly. The call connected, and Marlo snapped immediately. Serafina, I'm in the lobby of your building. Get down here right now. With that, Marlo hung up before Serafina could even respond. Staring at the dead line, Serafina was completely baffled. She headed down to the lobby and found Marlo standing there, seething. She walked over and asked, What's going on? Marlo glared at her through gritted teeth. Serafina, how could you? Caught off guard, Serafina stumbled and fell to the floor, a flash of anger crossing her eyes. Marlo, what's wrong with you? Someone helped Serafina up off the floor. This was the first time anyone had ever dared to shove her, and if it weren't for the fact that Marlo was both her longtime friend and her sister-in-law, she'd have had security throw her out already. Serafina held her temper and pressed on. What exactly has gotten into you? What did I even do to you? Marlo snapped, furious. Serafina, you shameless woman, don't you know exactly what you did to my brother? Serafina grew even more confused. What did I do to your brother? I didn't do anything. It was just what a married couple was supposed to do, though last night Dorian really had been reluctant and she'd been rather forceful about it. Could Dorian have told Marlo about it? Was that why Marlo had come to settle the score? Serafina felt a pang of guilt. It really had been her fault. Serafina cleared her throat guiltily. What do you want from me? I didn't mean to do it last night. I just lost control of myself in the heat of the moment. What do I want? I want to kill you. My brother is the golden child of my heart, and nobody is allowed to bully him. Serafina blinked, stunned. Is my crime really that severe? Marlo glared at her, jaw clenched, desperately wanting to lunge at her and throw a punch, but seeing Serafina's genuinely bewildered expression, she suddenly didn't have the heart to follow through. Come with me. She turned and walked straight out of the Rosemount building. Feeling guilty, Serafina obediently followed, trailing after Marlo to a deserted corner outside. Marlo glared at her. Talk! When exactly are you planning to divorce my brother? Serafina froze, staring at Marlo in shock. Divorce? Marlo said impatiently. You're not divorcing him. You want to keep him trapped for the rest of his life? Serafina looked utterly confused. You can't stand up to Alistair yourself, but that doesn't mean you get to take it out on Dorian. Marlo grew even more confused. I'm not taking anything out on Dorian. And what does Alistair even have to do with this? What do you mean it has nothing to do with Alistair? Alistair was the one who forced you to marry Dorian. I know you never wanted this, and now you're taking it out on Dorian like this. It's your way of getting back at Alistair. Serafina cut her off. What are you even talking about? What I did has nothing to do with my grandfather, and I'm not getting back at him either. What happened last night really was my fault. This time it was Marlo's turn to be confused. What happened last night? But it's not entirely my fault either. Was it really just my mistake? Doesn't your brother bear some blame too? What did my brother do wrong? Serafina spoke, a hint of grievance in her voice. Your brother, a married man, stayed out with a female classmate until the middle of the night. Isn't that wrong? Marlo calmed down, realizing that she and Serafina had been talking about two completely different things. So, last night you and Dorian fought over Imogen. Is that what he told you? He didn't tell me anything. Serafina was at a loss for words. Then why are you throwing a fit today? Marlo thought for a moment and said, just divorce my brother. Serafina was even more speechless. Is this something either of us gets to decide? If it were up to me, I wouldn't have married your brother in the first place, and I'm not the kind of woman who treats marriage like a game. Marlo scoffed. Oh, listen to you, acting like you're such a responsible woman. I am. Marlo nearly laughed out of pure exasperation at her shamelessness. Serafina continued. Marlo, I don't understand. What exactly did I do that makes you so insistent on this divorce? She truly didn't understand. When she'd first married me, Marlo hadn't approved, but she hadn't objected this fiercely either, yet now she was demanding a divorce with such intensity. What you did, you know perfectly well yourself. Just bringing it up made Marlo furious again, and she glared fiercely at Serafina, who instinctively took a step back. I really didn't do anything. You want me to spell it out? Since you married Dorian, you're supposed to fulfill a wife's duties and responsibilities. If you truly despise Dorian this much, you should have refused to marry him in the first place. But you did marry him, and now you're treating him like a decoration, not even looking at him, let alone touching him. Do you have any idea what that does to a man like my brother? How much it hurts and humiliates him? Serafina stared at Marlo in shock. Not looking, not touching. Yes, exactly. And since that's the case, just divorce my brother and stop holding him back. Serafina blinked. Wait a second, who told you I'm not looking or touching him? Let me tell you, I touch him every single day, several times a night even. The two of them exchanged an awkward glance, Serafina especially, her face going scarlet. Marlo, watching her, blushed too, inexplicably. Really? What? Are you serious? Do you think I'm lying to you? Marlo said, a little awkwardly. Then why didn't you say so in the group chat? You had me completely misled, Serafina said, exasperated. Would you rather I go around bragging that I've slept with your brother? Is that really the kind of person you think I am? Well, no, I guess not. My devastatingly gorgeous brother had, in the end, been claimed by her own spoiled, overbearing best friend. Marlo asked, curious. So what actually happened between you and my brother last night? Serafina suddenly felt too guilty to meet Marlo's eyes. Nothing much. Honestly, Serafina was so obviously hiding something that Marlo pressed her, dead serious. Serafina hesitated, then said, It's just that last night he didn't want to, and I forced him. Her voice trailed off, the last few words barely a mumble. At first Marlo didn't quite catch it, but a few seconds later it clicked, and she glared at Serafina, teeth gritted. Serafina spun around and bolted, her voice trailing behind her in the wind. You don't understand, this is just a couple's private games, everyone does this now. Please come back to the office and tell me. Dorian, if Serafina ever mistreats you or does something to wrong you, tell me, and I'll go beat her up. I nodded with a smile. Sure, I'll let you know if that happens, but she treats me quite well, actually. My brother got forced into it and he's still saying she's good to him. Maybe I really don't understand. Maybe it really is just a couple's private thing. Marlo left, her mind full of confusion. I couldn't shake the feeling that Marlo had been acting strange today. What had happened between Marlo and Seraphina in the lobby was reported straight to Alistair. He assumed Seraphina must have done something wrong to provoke Marlo like that. But Seraphina was the Rosemount family's only heir. The granddaughter Alistair had doted on since childhood, and no matter how much he tried to discipline her himself, he could never bring himself to lay a hand on her. Alistair was a little annoyed and brought it up over dinner. I heard Marlo knocked you down in the lobby today and threatened to hit you? Seraphina froze, glancing up at me. I looked at her surprised and asked, she knocked you down? Seraphina said nothing, which was answer enough. I pressed on, why would she push you? Seraphina still said nothing, unable to bring herself to explain. Alistair said, Marlo isn't an unreasonable child, you must have done something wrong. Seraphina's tone turned a little defensive. Grandfather, just leave it alone, this is between me and Marlo. Given what he did to me last night, even if Marlo really did hit him, he'd deserve it. Alistair frowned. Since it was your mistake, go apologize to Marlo and your in-laws. I looked at Alistair. Grandfather, I'll get to the bottom of this with Marlo myself. Alistair looked at me and said, I spoiled Seraphina rotten growing up. She's surely the one at fault here, don't defend her, she brought this on herself. I nodded and said nothing more, but I understood well enough that my grandfather-in-law wouldn't bring this up without reason. He was giving me a pointed hint. I understood too. Seraphina was the Rosemount family's only granddaughter, and Alistair treasured her deeply. Marlo had acted far too impulsively, and it was only because it was Marlo that this was even being let go so lightly. If it had been anyone else, Alistair would have already come down hard after dinner. Seraphina and I went back to our room. Why did Marlo attack you? Seraphina said nothing. I pressed on. If you won't tell me, I'll just go ask her myself. Seraphina still refused to speak. Seeing that she truly wasn't going to talk, I called Marlo instead. The call connected and I got straight to the point. Why did you go after Seraphina? Marlo paused, then said through gritted teeth, because she did something wrong. I frowned. What did she do? Marlo huffed. Go ask her yourself, I asked, and she wouldn't tell me either. That's because she's too guilty to admit it. My tone hardened a little. So, what exactly is this about? Marlo could tell from my voice that I was getting angry. I thought she'd assaulted you. I asked, confused. What made you think that? Marlo fell silent. Some things, even with her own brother, she was too embarrassed to say out loud. I glanced at Seraphina, sitting there anxiously beside me, both of them stammering evasively. What is going on exactly? Marlo couldn't keep dodging any longer, and muttered quietly, It's because she forced herself on you last night. Hearing that, I, someone unshaken even if a mountain collapsed before me, couldn't help but feel my ears go hot. Seraphina and Marlo were so close that she'd even told Marlo about our private life. Seraphina looked at my reddened ears, utterly fascinated by the sight. On the other end of the line, Marlo was still fuming, rambling on. Everything I did was for your sake. If I don't teach her a lesson now, if she dared force herself on you once, she'll dare do it again. I honestly don't get it, Dorian. How could you fall for a woman like that? If there's a next time, I really will beat her up. I stepped out onto the balcony and closed the sliding glass door behind me, so that Seraphina couldn't hear what Marlo and I were saying. Watching this, Seraphina thought to herself, is he shutting me out on purpose? We're married. Shouldn't we be the closest people to each other in the world? Why are the two of them keeping secrets from me? Are they talking badly about me? Would it really be so wrong to eavesdrop a little? Do I, Miss Rosemount, have no pride left to protect? I glanced at Seraphina, then spoke to Marlo. Regardless of the reason, you shouldn't have laid a hand on her. Seraphina is the Rosemount's only heir. You know full well how much she means to her grandfather and the entire family. You were far too reckless today, shoving her in public like that. Hearing this, Marlo muttered under her breath, I didn't actually hit her. I was just trying to scare her. Fine, in public it is. That's out. So next time I'll pick some dark moonless night and drag her off in a sack instead. Her voice was too quiet. I couldn't quite make it out, so I asked, Marlo, what was that? Marlo certainly wasn't going to repeat that out loud, so she hesitated, then said instead, has she ever considered that after doing something like that to you, how she's supposed to explain herself to Mom and Dad? I fell silent for a moment. The truth was she hadn't forced me at all. Marlo blinked, startled. Dorian, what did you say? You didn't say no. I rubbed my temples, feeling this really wasn't a topic I should be discussing with my own sister. Marlo, Seraphina, and I are married. Ever heard of playing hard to get? Marlo stared at me in disbelief. I don't want to understand this. My own brother playing coy games with Seraphina. Taking advantage of Marlo's stunned silence, I changed the subject. As for what happened between you and Seraphina, grandfather is quite upset about it. Come by another day and apologize to him. Marlo was left utterly speechless. What am I even supposed to say? I don't want to say anything at all. I've mentally checked out. I'm the joke of the day. After hanging up with Marlo, I went back into the room where Seraphina sat on the sofa scrolling her phone, and seeing me come in, asked, What did Marlo say? I know you and Marlo are close, but there are some things you shouldn't be telling her. Seraphina didn't quite follow. What things? I looked at her blank expression and said, exasperated, What happens between husband and wife, I didn't. Only a woman with no shame would go around sharing her private moments with her friends. I said coldly, Then how does Marlo know what happened between us last night? Seraphina's face flushed even redder. That was an accident, you have to believe me. I really haven't gone around telling anyone about what happens between us. I'm not that kind of woman. I nodded, smiling. Alright, I believe you. I noticed a faint red mark on her delicate hand, probably scraped when Marlo had knocked her down earlier. Does it hurt? Serafina looked at me, my eyes full of concern, and her cheeks flushed, her heartbeat quickening. Seeing her stay quiet, I leaned in closer and blew gently on her palm. There, a little blow, and it won't hurt anymore. Serafina's heart raced even faster. Is Dorian actually flirting with me right now? Oh no, he's being so unfair, my heart's about to leap out of my chest. I looked at her flushed little face, the corner of my mouth curling up, and leaned down closer, pressing a light kiss on her soft, rosy lips, then asked her, Does it still hurt now? Serafina stammered, Not anymore. Seeing her like that, I gave her a bright, sunny smile. Good girl. I kissed her once more on the lips, then got up and went to shower. Only then did Serafina finally allow herself to breathe deeply. I've had all sorts of men before, trying every trick in the book to flirt with me, and I've never once felt my heart flutter, never felt the slightest stir inside. I even found it a little laughable. To me, their little moves were always so cheap and childish, but now, I'm so nervous and flustered I don't know what to do with myself, and my heart is still pounding a mile a minute. Serafina clutched her chest and collapsed onto the sofa, and by the time I came out of the shower, she still couldn't quite bring herself to look me in the eye. What's wrong? Did your hand start hurting again? According to everything I'd learned about her before, Serafina was supposed to be a spoiled, domineering, overbearing, difficult young heiress, but after these past few days together, I'd discovered she was surprisingly innocent and easily flustered. Serafina thought to herself, her face burning. Why am I so pathetic? Why do I keep blushing over nothing? I've seen it all before. What's there to be embarrassed about? I met her glistening, beautiful eyes and let out a soft chuckle. Seeing me laugh, she steeled herself, walked over and held her pale hand up to my lips. It hurts again. Why don't you blow on it again? Or maybe kiss it better. Serafina thought nervously, her heart pounding. Dorian's clearly teasing me on purpose. If he can tease me, can't I turn the tables and tease him back? I looked at the small hand suddenly thrust in front of me, and paused for a moment. I honestly hadn't expected Serafina to make a move like that. I'd assumed teasing her would just get me a glare, followed by her fleeing into the shower to hide. But it seemed she'd learned a thing or two. I chuckled and nodded. Sure. I blew gently on her hand, then kissed it. Better now? Serafina wanted to say something to salvage the moment, but her mind had gone completely blank. Looks like it doesn't hurt anymore, but if it starts hurting again, just tell me, and I'll blow on it for you. Serafina stared at me, her whole face burning red. Watching her expression, I belatedly realized just how suggestive my own words had sounded. Really? So anytime it hurts, I can just come find you? Hearing that loaded question, I found myself, for once, at a loss for words. In most matters, I was completely at ease, but when it came to this, I was every bit a novice too. Seeing that she'd flustered me into silence, Serafina thought smugly. So, not allowed? I looked at her and said deadpan, Only if it's Marlo's fists doing the hurting. Shall I call her over right now to give you another bruise? Serafina's face turned crimson, and she gritted her teeth. No thanks. Before fleeing straight into the bathroom. To make amends for what happened, Marlo showed up at the Rosemount estate first thing the next morning. Alistair, I'm so sorry I let my temper get the better of me yesterday. I shouldn't have laid a hand on Serafina. Please rest assured, I won't ever do something like that again. Alistair was quite pleased with her attitude. Marlo, you're a good child. You and Serafina have been friends for so many years. If there's ever something Serafina does wrong, you can point it out and have her correct it. And if she won't listen, come tell me instead, and I'll set her straight myself. Laying hands on her yourself will only damage the friendship between you. Understood, Alistair, I hear you. I'm not the type to hold a grudge over young people's mistakes, I'm not that rigid. But still, what exactly did Serafina do to make Marlo this upset? So what exactly did Serafina do that got you so worked up? Marlo said, a little embarrassed. It's nothing serious, Alistair, just a little misunderstanding. Alistair grew even more curious, and true to the saying that old age brings wisdom, he probed directly. Did Serafina do something to hurt your brother? No, it's nothing like that, Alistair. Why haven't Dorian and Serafina gotten up yet? Alistair said with a smile. Probably wore themselves out last night, still sleeping in. Marlo's cheeks flushed slightly. Wore themselves out last night? That phrase was impossible not to read into. Just then, Alistair asked with a grin. So, do you want a nephew or a niece? Nephew or niece? Marlo blinked completely, caught off guard. Wait, is she pregnant? Is Serafina actually pregnant? No way, they've only been married a few days, there's no way it could happen this fast. Is Serafina really pregnant? No, I was just asking out of curiosity. Marlo let out a sigh of relief, then genuinely started considering the question. Nephew or niece? If the baby takes after Dorian, I'd want a boy just like him. But if it takes after Serafina instead, well, straight into the sun with it. Catching that unsettling thought, she quickly said, I like the idea of a nephew. Alistair nodded in agreement. Same here, we're on the same page. Marlo nodded, understanding perfectly. Old-fashioned thinking, deeply set in his ways, of course he'd prefer a boy. But what if, just hypothetically, they have a daughter who turns out just like Serafina? Alistair glanced at Marlo. This kid used to seem so sweet, why has she gotten so much more annoying now? Alistair shot Marlo a look. You'd better hope and pray their child doesn't turn out like Serafina. Why not? Alistair said, exasperated at the thought. Because if that happens, your brother's going to end up just like me, worrying himself sick over that child forever. Marlo, over the years this hopeless granddaughter of mine has driven me up the wall more times than I can count. You've witnessed it yourself. It was true, only Alistair's iron constitution had kept him from being furious to death by Seraphina long ago. Alistair, don't worry, there's no way their child turns out like Seraphina. Just then Seraphina and I came down the stairs, catching that exact line. Marlo, first thing in the morning, what nonsense are you spouting? Marlo was really going too far these days, attacking her yesterday, and now bright and early, telling grandfather that her future child shouldn't take after her. What an infuriating woman. Marlo and Alistair both turned to look at her, and Marlo noticed the dark circles under my eyes. Clearly the result of Seraphina keeping Dorian up all night, not letting him get any sleep was the first wrong to say it. If the kid takes after you, the Rosemount family is doomed sooner or later. Alistair nodded along in agreement. This is exactly why I went to such great lengths to arrange this match with Dorian in the first place, hoping their union would improve the family's gene pool for the next generation. The last 2 generations of the Rosemounts have had rather poor luck genetically. I turned out decent enough myself, but then I raised a hopelessly love-struck son, and then that love-struck son went and produced this unfortunate granddaughter of mine. If we don't bring in some superior genes to save this family soon, the next generation will end up both love-struck and spoiled, and the Rosemounts really will be finished. Seraphina looked at Marlo and her grandfather. I am absolutely furious. What is grandfather even implying? I'm his actual granddaughter, and when Marlo talks about me like this, grandfather doesn't even stick up for me. He actually agrees with her. Marlo, do I have a shred of standing left in this family? I looked at Seraphina, her lips puckered in a pout, and gently corrected my sister. Marlo, you shouldn't talk about your sister-in-law like that. Seraphina glanced at me. Was I wrong to say it? As long as my husband's on my side, I'll always have standing in this family. Marlo eyed the two of us. Sister-in-law is such a strange, awkward word to say. I don't think I could ever call her that. Seraphina asked, why are you here so early in the morning anyway? Marlo said, I came to see my brother. Seraphina said nothing, privately relieved. She thought for a moment Dorian had sent Marlo here to beat her up. Since Marlo hadn't eaten yet, everyone sat down together for breakfast. Seraphina and I each got in our own cars, ready to head to work, but Marlo insisted on riding with Seraphina instead. Seraphina tried to turn her down. We're not even headed the same way, just ride with your brother. Rosemount and Meridian are in completely different directions. I don't care, I want to ride with you. Why are you making such a fuss about it? Seraphina had no choice, and simply started the car. Marlo, in the passenger seat, said, can you please show a little restraint from now on? Restraint about what, exactly? Dorian's already exhausted enough during the day from work, so at night you need to hold back a little. Oh, how mortifying. Seraphina had no intention of holding back, and flatly refused. No way, your brother and I are freshly married, why on earth should I hold back? Marlo stared at Seraphina's shameless self-righteousness, and found nothing more to say, so she simply dropped the subject. I got a message from Seraphina, Dahlia and the others. They all know we got married now, and they're insisting I treat them to dinner. Do you want to come along? I agreed to join Seraphina. Once the dinner was arranged, the two of us left work early and headed to the restaurant. Seraphina hadn't invited too many people, just Dahlia, Marigold, Vesper, and a few other close female friends. Everyone trickled in one by one. Those who hadn't heard the news were all shocked to see me there, and even more stunned once Seraphina introduced me. Seraphina, how did you get married so quietly without a word to anyone? And your husband is this handsome, no less. The last to arrive was Marigold, who didn't come alone. She brought along a bright, good-looking man. Quite a few people in the room exchanged knowing, playful glances, and started teasingly sizing up Seraphina and me. I've always been good at reading a room, and the moment this man walked in, I could tell right away that whatever history he had with Seraphina, it wasn't ordinary. The man walked up to Seraphina beaming. Seraphina, I brought you a little souvenir from my trip. Seraphina took the gift and said politely, thank you. Then she looped her arm through mine. Let me introduce you. This is my husband, Dorian. Dorian, this is my friend Cassius. Cassius froze, his eyes going wide, staring at Seraphina in disbelief, then glancing over at me. What? Seraphina, what are you talking about? Did I hear that wrong? Seraphina had called me her husband. He'd only been away traveling for a month. How had Seraphina gotten married in that time? It wasn't possible. He hadn't heard a single word about it. He refused to believe it. Surely Seraphina was lying to him, but then why would she lie about something like that? I spoke politely. Hello, I'm Seraphina's husband. The light instantly drained from Cassius's eyes, and he looked at Seraphina with a mix of hurt and heartbreak. Seraphina, what are you talking about? You didn't even have a boyfriend. How do you suddenly have a husband? Don't tell me you paid someone to play this whole act just to turn me down? Seraphina's voice softened. No, I really did get married. We've already registered our marriage. He was a friend Marlo knew well, Cassius, who usually hung out with their whole friend group, and knew Marlo quite well too. He clearly noticed the resemblance between Marlo and me, and given Cassius's family background, he certainly wasn't the type to go along with Seraphina on some pointless little charade. It would ruin his own prospects of finding a marriage match in this circle. So it had to be true, they really were married. Cassius looks at the two of us. His eyes instantly turn red. I regret it. I shouldn't have gone traveling. That way, I could have known right away about Seraphina's wedding. Maybe I'd have had a chance to stop it. Seraphina looks displeased. Today is the first time since our wedding that we're hosting a dinner. Don't ruin the mood. Or don't blame me for asking you to leave. Everyone has arrived. Everyone starts eating. They all offer their blessings to us. The mood is great. Cassius isn't happy, but he doesn't do anything. He just sits there, glancing at Seraphina now and then glancing at me. I occasionally notice his gaze and look back at him. Seraphina notices me glancing at Cassius now and then, and it makes her a little uneasy. Could Dorian possibly think there's something between me and Cassius? There's nothing at all. We've always been completely innocent. I've never even had a boyfriend before, and I've never been involved with any man. None of them were ever good enough for me anyway. After dinner, everyone heads over to the club. They start playing games, singing, and drinking. Everyone is having a great time. I sit on the couch watching Seraphina sing. Her voice is beautiful, and she has real style. I just quietly watch her. When one song ends, the next song belongs to Cassius. Cassius grabs the microphone and suddenly cuts the music. He looks at me and says, "Dorian, I know you don't love Seraphina." The moment he says this, everyone falls silent and looks at Cassius. "Dorian, I love her. I love her deeply. If you're willing to divorce Seraphina, name your price. I just asked around. You went abroad right after high school, and you've rarely come back all these years. Meanwhile, Seraphina has always stayed here. You two barely had any contact. Without contact, there's no feeling. This sudden marriage must be nothing but a business alliance. It's all about interest. So I'll use interest to win you over too. Get you two divorced." Seraphina's brow furrows lightly. Her clear eyes flash with anger. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Cassius says earnestly. "Seraphina, he doesn't love you, and you don't love him either. You two will never be happy together. I'm saving you." Seraphina rolls her eyes at him. "You think you're some kind of savior? Saving me?" Cassius looks at Seraphina, now a bit angry, and thinks to himself, "Forget it, I love her. My heart already leans entirely toward her. There's no way I can out-argue her." He turns to look at me instead. "Any condition will do?" Seraphina turns and stares at me in disbelief. What does Dorian mean by this? Is he actually going to agree? Seraphina's brow tightens as she holds back her anger. "If he dares to divorce me and turns me into a divorcee, I'll kill him." I speak with a smile. 10 billion. I don't want stocks, I don't want antiques or jewelry, I want cash and real estate. The person beside Seraphina nudges her gently and teases with a smile. "Wow, Miss Rosemount is quite pricey." Seraphina shoots her an annoyed glare. Cassius's face darkens and he falls silent. 10 billion in cash and real estate. I don't have that. If I did, I would have already given it. What, you don't have it? Why would you ask for so much? I glance at Seraphina beside me and say, "Don't you think she's worth it? In your heart, isn't Seraphina worth 10 billion? Cassius feels like I'm insulting Seraphina. How can this man be so cruel? In my heart, Seraphina is a priceless treasure. Well, since she's a priceless treasure, trading 10 billion for her, you should be willing, right?" "I am willing. It's just that I don't have that much money. I may be a rich kid, but not every rich kid can just pull out 10 billion. I laugh a little. "So what will you do?" Cassius looks utterly hopeless. How am I supposed to know what to do? Seeing him stay silent, I continue. "How about I wait for you? Work hard and earn the money. Once you've earned enough, come find me again. 10 billion. How long will it take me to earn that much? I know exactly what I'm capable of. I'm just someone coasting through life, a rich kid waiting out his days. I have no head for business at all, but for Seraphina's sake I'll work hard," Cassius declares solemnly. "You said it yourself. Wait for me. Once I earn that 10 billion, you'll divorce Seraphina." I nod. "Sure, I said it. You're all witnesses. All right, we'll testify for you." "Ha ha ha, Cassius, you'd better work hard. Hurry up and earn that 10 billion. Otherwise, decades from now, once Seraphina has grown old, what's the point of spending 10 billion on her?" Seraphina grabs a piece of fruit from the bowl and throws it. "You're the one who'll grow old." The woman catches it smoothly and takes a bite, teasing. "No wonder it's the touch of a billion-dollar heiress. The fruit she picks is so sweet. Ha ha ha. Even her hand alone must be worth over 1 billion. No wonder it's sweet." "Exactly," Cassius says with utter sincerity. "Don't listen to them. No matter how old or plain you become, I'll still love you." Seraphina scoffs coldly. "You make it sound like I'm the only one who'll age and turn plain, while the rest of you stay forever young, like time never touches you. Why don't you give up on Seraphina already? What about me instead?" "Seraphina wants 10 billion. I'll give you half off. 5 billion. Ha 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 ha. You're all terrible people. Building your joy on my misery." The group keeps partying until 1 in the morning before breaking up, but Cassius had already left at 10. I didn't want to stay and watch the two of them show off their affection. I needed to go home and figure out how to make money. Seraphina and I get back home. The moment we're back in the bedroom, Seraphina confronts me. "So, was the price too low or too high?" Seraphina has been thinking about this all night and she's been unhappy the whole time. "Relax, Cassius could never come up with 10 billion, but what if he actually does? What if Cassius really earns 10 billion? I look at her rosy lips, my throat tightening. Well, if he really brings it out, I suppose I'll reluctantly accept it. Seraphina, furious, raises her hand and punches me. "Dorian, you jerk! Are you really planning to sell me off?" I reach out and grab her wrist, pulling her gently into my arms. My nose brushes against the top of her hair, breathing in the faint scent of gardenia on her skin. My heart softens completely. I could sell anyone but never you. My Miss Rosemount is a priceless treasure, such a smooth talker. That's not what you said back at the club. You opened your mouth and asked for 10 billion right away. I think you've gone mad for money. I let out a low laugh. My fingertips trace her soft cheek. Wasn't that just me getting rid of trouble for you? Anyone with eyes could see he had feelings for you. If I hadn't shut it down completely, he'd keep hanging around you. Serafina falls silent for a few seconds, her small hand clutching the hem of my shirt. Her voice comes out muffled. He and I are just ordinary friends. I've never had any other feelings. I know. I look down at the redness rimming her eyes, knowing full well in my heart. This girl may seem spoiled, but she's actually very pure at heart. Friends around her come and go, yet she's always known where to draw the line. Before, when Marlo shoved her outside the office over a misunderstanding, I already noticed it then. This girl may seem willful, but she never truly holds a grudge against those around her. Even when Dahlia and Vesper forced drinks on her, she only complained a little afterward, never truly holding it against them. As for me, I agreed to marry her at Alistair's request, for the sake of the Rosemount family's resources, and to fulfill his wishes, to help her grow into someone capable, and to give the Rosemount family an heir. But the longer we've been together, the more I've realized that this girl everyone dismisses as a spoiled socialite hides the purest heart underneath. She sulks when I go on a business trip for a week, gets jealous when I have dinner with Imogen, clumsily tries to comfort me when I'm exhausted, and even when Marlo misunderstands us, blushes as she admits how close we've become. These small, fleeting moments have long since melted my once cold, calculated plan into a heart full of tenderness. You really trust me? I lean down and kiss her forehead. Of course, I've always trusted you. Serafina's cheeks flush instantly. She pushes me away and turns toward the bathroom, pretending to stay calm. I'm going to take a shower. I'm not talking to you anymore. This girl is always stubborn on the outside but soft on the inside. Early the next morning, I've just come downstairs when I see Marlo sitting in the dining room, staring at me with a resentful look. Serafina walks over carrying a glass of milk. Seeing Marlo's expression, she can't help but laugh. Marlo, what's with that face? Who owes you money? Marlo glares at her, then turns to look at Dorian. You didn't sleep well again last night. Your dark circles are almost reaching your chin. Serafina, could you two show some restraint? Serafina's face flushes bright red instantly. Marlo, could you stop bringing this up? Alistair walks in from outside just in time to catch this. Young people have plenty of energy, perfectly normal, perfectly normal. I'm still waiting to hold a great-grandchild. Serafina, embarrassed, hides behind me, clutching my sleeve without a word. I gently pat her hand and look at Marlo. Stop teasing Serafina all the time. Hurry up and eat, then head to the office. Dorian, I really don't want to go to work. I just want to be a useless rich kid. No, you've had enough playing around. It's time you learn to run the company. The Meridian Group's assets will be yours too one day. Dahlia's and Vesper's parents had already taken my advice long ago and placed both girls into the company as well. Now, 3 girls who once only knew how to have fun go to work together every day. Though they complain constantly, they've gradually settled down. Their spoiled tempers are slowly being worn smooth through work. This is exactly the outcome I wanted. In the car, she suddenly speaks up. Why did you agree to marry me in the first place? My hand pauses on the steering wheel. I turn my head to look at her. Do you want to hear the truth? Yes, the truth. At first it was your grandfather who came to me. The terms he offered, I couldn't refuse. And I agreed to his 2 conditions. Help you grow into someone capable and give the Rosemount family an heir. But now, I just want to build a life with you. Serafina, it's not because of interest. It's not because of an agreement. It's because of who you are. She looks up at me sharply, her eyes filled with shock and a trace of disbelief. You mean it. I do. I love your spoiled side. I love your innocence. I love how you act tough but have a soft heart. I love every moment I spend with you. This arranged marriage, I've long since taken to heart. Dorian, why didn't you tell me sooner? I thought you were only doing this because of the agreement with grandfather. It's my fault. I made you suffer needlessly. When we arrive at the office, I've just finished handling my work when Imogen's call comes in. Dorian, are you free tonight? There's a class reunion. Everyone wants you to come. No, I need to be with my wife tonight. Imogen falls silent for a few seconds. I understand. Wish you happiness. Thanks. I hang up. There isn't a single ripple in my heart. The old friendship from school has long since faded with time. Now, there's only Serafina in my heart. When I get off work in the evening, I've just walked downstairs from the office when I see Serafina leaning against the car, waiting for me, a thermos in her hands. Why did you come here? I hurry over and take the thermos from her. I brought you soup. She lifts her face up. Jasper stewed some bird's nest soup. He said it's good for your health. Warmth spreads through my chest. I take her hand and we get in the car and head home. Back at home, Alistair sees us arrive together hand in hand and can't stop smiling. I've already arranged everything for the wedding. It'll take place in 2 months. The whole city will know. I want everyone to know that you're the rightful son-in-law of the Rosemount family. Whatever you decide, grandfather. At night, lying in bed, Serafina nestles into my arms and whispers, I used to think marriage was just a cage, a duty grandfather forced on me. But now, I feel so happy. And I know it'll only get better. She suddenly looks up, her eyes shining bright. Oh, by the way, I've been learning the business at the company lately. Grandfather says I'm progressing fast. Soon I'll be able to help you run the company together. My Serafina is amazing. The socialite who once only knew how to eat, drink, and play has now slowly grown up, capable of standing on her own. The promise I made to Alistair has finally been fulfilled. Day after day passes. Dahlia, Vesper, and Marlowe have slowly settled into the company, shedding their old spoiled ways and becoming more mature. Cassius never comes to bother Seraphina again. When they occasionally cross paths in social circles, he only offers a polite nod, having finally let go of his obsession. Imogen, too, has found her own happiness, and our paths no longer cross. All the old tangled feelings have slowly settled into peace. The good live steady, quiet lives, and those consumed by obsession let go of the past. Everything moves toward the best possible future. 3 months later, Seraphina holds her pregnancy test results and rushes into my office with reddened eyes. "Dorian, I'm pregnant." I jump to my feet instantly. I take the test results from her, my hands trembling slightly as I stare at the results. My heart floods with overwhelming joy. I kneel down and gently wrap my arms around her, kissing her forehead. "Seraphina, thank you." Alistair, upon hearing the news, is so overjoyed he nearly bursts into tears. "Wonderful, wonderful. Spread the word, double the salary of every employee at Rosemount Holdings. No, give everyone a raise across the board." I set aside most of my work to focus entirely on caring for Seraphina during her pregnancy. Her temper grows a little fussy during pregnancy. Whatever she craves, no matter how late it is, I go out and get it myself. When morning sickness makes her miserable, I stay by her side all night, gently rubbing her back to soothe her. I once believed marriage was just a trade of interests, and a child was simply fulfilling an agreement. But now I finally understand. With her by my side, and our child soon to be born, this is the family I truly wanted all along. After 9 months of pregnancy, the day of delivery finally arrives. Outside the delivery room, I can't sit still. My palms are soaked with sweat. When I hear the baby's loud cry, my anxious heart finally settles. The nurse comes out carrying the baby and says with a smile, "Mr. Dorian, it's a boy. Mother and baby are both safe." I hurry into the delivery room. "Seraphina, you've been so strong. Dorian, look, our baby." Alistair names the child Rowan, a name meant to carry the memory of Seraphina within it, symbolizing that we'll stay together for life. On the day of the baby's 1-month celebration, the wedding and the celebration are held together. The event is grand and spectacular. Marlowe holds her little nephew, beaming from ear to ear. "Dorian, Seraphina, this baby is so adorable. I'll spoil him rotten from now on." Dahlia and Vesper laugh and say, "Seraphina, you're so happy now. We're all so envious of you." Seraphina nestles into my arms, taking in everything before her, her smile full of contentment and joy. "Seraphina, this marriage that began as an agreement, I will spend my whole life loving you. For the rest of our lives, through every meal, every season, with our child at our feet, we'll stay together forever. Dorian, I'm so glad I have you." Sunlight streams through the bay window, falling over the two of us, warm and radiant. What was once a marriage of convenience has become an unforgettable true love. A fortune worth billions can never compare to the one beside you. Even a pampered, spoiled wife can become a lifelong soulmate.